You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers about hikers for everybody.
This is the Hammock Hangers Podcast, where we hang out and talk about everything from hammocks and hammock camping to the group hangs from around the country. Hey everyone, welcome to the Hammock Hangers Podcast, where we unwind, relax, and delve into all things hammock related. Join us as we swing into the world of hammocks, exploring tips and tricks for setting up that perfect hang, sharing stories of outdoor adventures, and discovering the latest trends in hammock camping and relaxation. Whether you're a seasoned hammocker or new to the art of hanging, this podcast is your cozy corner to kick back, escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and soak in the soothing atmosphere of the hammock culture. Prepare to be inspired, educated, and entertained as we embrace the hammock lifestyle together. So grab your favorite hammock, find that perfect spot to hang, and let's embark on a hammock-filled journey that will leave you feeling refreshed, rejuvenated, and ready to take on the world. This is the Hammock Hangers Podcast, where every episode is a breath of fresh air. Let's get started.
Howdy, hangers. Welcome to this week's episode of the Hammock Hangers Podcast. And we have a new product vendor on our radar for tonight. A couple different things that we've got going on in the hammock community to just keep you guys aware of. We have our spring Maha at Caledonia State Park in Pennsylvania happening the weekend of April 25th through 27th. We also have the No Name Hang happening in South Carolina with our friends from Palmetto State. And we also have a little hang over in Denmark that weekend as well for HangCon Europe in partnership with the Danish Outdoor Festival. So we are really excited about all of those opportunities. If you are interested, there seems to be plenty of hammock events that you could take part in. So definitely check out those three events. I know Paul and I are really excited about heading back over to Denmark again and seeing all of our Danish and European listeners again. We are really excited about hopping on that plane and flying over and seeing you guys. So we can't wait for licorice and coffee and hammer stew and hot dogs. Yeah, if you haven't had a hot dog in Copenhagen, you have not lived yet. People, random thing about Copenhagen is they have amazing hot dogs. So make sure if you have the chance to hop on over there, hot dogs, one of the things that you definitely check out. So we also just came back, my wife and kids, from Anastasia State Park in Florida. We were lucky enough to snag one of the sites at the state park. If you're unfamiliar with Florida state parks, especially in the springtime, right before it gets hot, getting a reservation at any of these state parks has become increasingly difficult as everybody wants to come to Florida, apparently. But we have our ways and our secret ins and outs, and we were able to snag a site at Anastasia State Park. It was the first time I've actually hammocked there, and it's reason number 892, which I am so glad that I own a Yobo hammock stand, because I could have made a hammock kind of sort of work with the tree situation that we had there. But the sites were larger, but the trees were kind of in a lot of palmetto bushes. And that wouldn't have exactly made for a comfortable night's sleep. I did realize that looking at their map that they did have about 5 sites that were specifically hammock specific sites. So I went around and to see what makes these sites hammock friendly. And most of the sites, I want to say 3 of them had people in there. So I'm kind of just gazing in and out, not trying to look super sketchy, checking out their campsite. But it didn't seem like it would be a place that you would want to guarantee that you could hang probably more than 2 hammocks on any one site. I mean, even a couple, I would be pushing to hang one just on trees. There were some other sites that were not hammock specific sites that maybe looked a little bit better, but I'm not too sure about the specific regulations of that particular state park. And I'm sure, as most of you know, it really depends on the mood of the park ranger that we have while we're there. But overall, it was a really good stay, not too far from St. Augustine, so we were able to swing in there and catch some of the historical sites. So, but yeah, it was a good trip for us. And if you're in that north east area of Florida and want to check out a really nice state park, Anastasia State Park is a really well maintained, right on the water, and not too far of a short drive from St. Augustine. But ladies and gentlemen, let's get into our episode today. We have Jackson Busch from Madison River Hammocks. Is that correct?
Madison River Outdoors is the company. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And, Madison River Outdoors, I found you guys out. I want to say that I may have seen like a scrolling ad on Facebook, but I was, lurking on hammock forums as I occasionally do. And one of the topics or threads that started was new designs of hammocks that are different from on the market. And you popped up, and I kind of looked at your product, and you have a design of your hammock that I would say is something I haven't really seen too much in the market. And as most of our viewers know, I have the tendency of really making poor financial choices. So I own a lot of gear. And I do not own a particular hammock that is in your design. So before we get too into your product, you make a inflatable hammock, correct?
I do. Yes.
All right. Well, we're going to get into that, but we're going to get to know Jackson here a little bit before we start talking business, I guess, per se. So Jackson, tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe kind of your hammock origin story. How did you get into hanging between the trees?
Yeah. So I'm originally from New Jersey, and just growing up, always had a hammock in our lawn, playing around with my brother, flipping upside down in it, getting told off by our parents. So I've always had a hammock in the yard. And then I quite like getting out into the woods, and hammock is always the best lightweight option, for traveling. And it's just always been something I've brought in my pack when going outside.
So was camping a big factor for you growing up? Was that something that your family normally did?
I wouldn't say, we're a crazy outdoor family,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely, on the adventurous side. So lots of state parks in New Jersey and, Delaware River close by. And we'd always get out a couple times during the year and, camp. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
But you are not currently in New Jersey.
I am not, no. I've been in Victoria, British Columbia on Vancouver Island for about 10 years now. So
what brought you up to our friends in the Great White North?
So my grandparents are here, and, just a sickness in the family. And we moved here just to kind of help out with that. And we've been here ever since.
Okay, awesome.
But, I absolutely love it here. And it's great.
Awesome. So, what is, I guess, maybe the camping experience? How is the camping experience in Canada maybe slightly different than the camping experience that you would have here in the States?
Yeah. So I think the main difference would be the remoteness. While there is, the capital city is where I live, 2 hours away, even less, you're in some pretty remote terrain. So, New Jersey is a very densely populated state.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very remote here, and the trees are just, massive. And
Yeah, I don't have too much experience with West Coast trees. I was able to join a friend of mine, Adam Wisniewski, in Southern California last summer, and we went out and we saw some of the trees out there, and yeah, those trees out your way hit quite differently than the pines on our side of the coast.
Yes, you need to definitely bring some sort of extender for your straps to get around the trees here. That's for sure.
My goal is and when the next time that we head out to California, my bucket list item is to go to both redwood and sequoia in California. That is a bucket list item for me. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'll be hanging from those trees, but I can definitely set up a stand and get adjusted.
Right.
So you've been in BC for about 10 years now, and enjoying the cooler life up there. But how did you get into? Let's talk about your product a little bit. So tell us
Yeah.
about your hammock and what makes your hammock different than probably most anything on the market.
Yeah. So the main thing is it's inflatable. So instead of having to bring, like an underquilt, or I know a lot of people put sleeping pads inside their hammock, we kind of wanted to, give the user that insulatory feature in their hammock
Mm-hmm.
all in one package. So, yeah, we saw that inflatable hammocks weren't a thing that we could find, online or anything. And yeah, we set about trying to make our own.
Yeah, the design is very unique. I want to say when I got into hammock camping, quilts were a newer thing. They weren't brand new, but they were close to it. And a lot of people were talking about, hey, get the double layer because you can fit a pad in there. And, at the time, I was not very much an outdoor person. So a pad for me was literally an inflatable air mattress. So, and not the small backpacking type. So, so the inflatable idea wasn't. It would have been an additional purchase that I would have to make, and I really just went right into quilts. However, I have used a pad. I used a pad once in my Ridge Runner hammock for just a night, just to try things out, and I used a pad with the Haven tent that I owned as well, and I can imagine a lot of people being very frustrated with pads as far as having something that's not stationary, but the entire body of your hammock is inflatable, correct?
Yeah. So with our hammock, you're going to get 180 degrees of insulation
Mm-hmm.
rather than, just right on your back with a standard pad. So, yeah, I would say that's the main difference between our hammock and, a sleeping pad configuration is that you're getting 180 degrees of insulation.
And your insulation is not going to move, which is kind of the crux that I have with, I guess, your traditional underquilts.
Yeah.
So what kind of brought out this idea? Why an inflatable hammock versus trying to add something like an underquilt or a pad? What kind of brought this into light for you?
So the inspiration for the hammock was we were on a 2-week backpacking trip in Corsica,
Mm-hmm.
it's an island in the Mediterranean Ocean. It's part of France, and so I was with my brother, and we were backpacking along the island, and yeah, we didn't bring any sort of underquilt or pad or anything in our hammock.
Mm-hmm.
So
You were living dangerously.
we were, and we basically had the towels that we brought as our blankets. So incredibly bare bones setup, and so we were having a very cold night, and so during
What
that
type of
night,
temperatures are you looking at?
sorry,
What type of temperatures were you looking at that night?
it was early June, but it was probably around, well, I think Fahrenheit, it would be around 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh,
It's not the warmest, but yeah,
with no insulation, I
freezing.
would say that's pretty darn cold.
No, it was a long night for sure. And so laying there that night, we were thinking, what's a way that you can, have a lightweight, packable, hammock to bring while
Mhm.
backpacking. So backpacking was the main, you know, that was the main target that we were thinking of when designing the hammock.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So talk me through like your design process. So you had your night where you froze your butt off in the Mediterranean, and you come back to like, I need something that's going to avoid this cold butt syndrome. So talk to us about like where did that idea kind of go from that experience?
Yeah. So we spent a little while just kind of drawing up, ideas of what we wanted the hammock to look like. Because
Mhm.
we did know we wanted it to be, a fully inflatable, you know, thing. So we spent a long time just drawing different designs, kind of considering like how to not have the sides of the hammock bow in and, give you that tight shoulder hugging feel. And then there was a whole process of learning about like the actual materials that, are used in like sleeping pads,
Mhm.
and, learning how that whole side of it worked. And then we set about building some prototypes with some soldering irons and different different like clothing
Mhm. Yeah, clothing items. Yeah.
clothing irons. Yeah. So some pretty crude prototypes in a lot of different configurations.
Mhm.
Um, and then we finally landed on, a design that gave you that comfortable feeling while also being, aesthetically good to look at.
Gotcha, gotcha. So what type of temperature ratings are you looking at for your insulated hammocks?
Yeah. So we have an insulate. Well, it's an aluminized film layer
Mhm.
suspended in the hammock, just like a standard sleeping pad.
Mhm.
So you're going to get an R value of 3. So I wouldn't call it, it's definitely not 4 season, but I would say it's definitely a good 3 season hammock.
Okay, awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
So, what type of suspension are you guys looking at? Are you using for your hammocks?
Yeah, it's just your standard like flat strap, just with, staggered loops so you can adjust tension and all that.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, and your hammock doesn't require a ridge line, a structural ridge line. It's from the pictures that I've seen, it looks more of a flatter, a more taut hang than let's say your standard a camping hammock.
Yeah, it's yeah, no ridge line, so it's definitely not going to have the sag that you would find in a traditional hammock.
Hmm.
But one of the cool things that we found, and to be honest, we weren't necessarily, you know, aiming to fix this issue, was it doesn't really seem to have much center tension. And I know that when it's hung not inflated, you are going to
Hmm.
feel center tension,
Hmm.
but once it's inflated, yeah, just the chambers really do a good job at releasing that pressure throughout the center of the hammock. And so, yeah, it's a really comfortable lay.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Yeah, I can imagine using with the pad, having that air chambers, offering a little bit more of a cot like experience, and not having that, not having that, shoulder squeeze because again, your fabric is not closing in on your shoulders and things like that. So good deal, good deal. So, right now, you guys just offer the hammock itself. Can you use the hammock uninflated?
You can, yeah. Although I would say that you would want to leave definitely some slack in the hammock,
Hmm.
because I think that if you were to hang it as you were hanging your normal hammock, it probably wouldn't be quite as comfortable as your standard hammock, just because you are going to have, the nylon is there's not as much stretch in that fabric. So you are going to feel a bit of back tension, but provided you leave enough slack in the lines, there's nothing differentiating it from a normal hammock feel.
Gotcha. So, now when you're inflating the hammock, do you have to inflate it fully, or is it more of like you want to inflate the chambers like 70%?
Yeah, so I would say it's obviously down to personal preference, and you can kind of inflate the chambers to suit your comfort level. But yeah, you inflate the chambers just with a standard pump sack or electric pump, as you would like a standard sleeping pad. And so like the ends of the hammock, obviously, as they cinch up, those do a good job at pushing the air towards the center. So like it kind of offsets any I guess you would call like the deflection of the air from the weight of your backside in the middle. So it does a good job of kind of like these counteracting forces and evening out the chamber inflation throughout the hammock.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm looking here on your website now, and you have the inflatable chambers. About how long are those chambers in relationship to the total length of the hammock?
Yeah, so the total length of the hammock is 11 feet. And then the actual inflatable chamber part is 8 feet.
Okay.
So you've got 1.5 feet of just polyester at either end to help with taking that kind of tension out of the center. Those help distribute the actual load. Then you have the actual inflating body, the 8 feet of that in the middle.
So this hammock will easily work for someone over 6 feet like myself.
It definitely will. Yeah.
Awesome. Good deal. And what I know a question that we get a lot here. So what are we looking at as far as like weight capacity for the hammock itself?
Yeah. So we have tested the hammock up to 475 pounds. So we filled quite a lot of construction bags full of water and, weighed them and put them in the hammock. So that was our stress test. And we left that for a week, and the hammock was, still holding strong. There was a little bit of loss of air in the chambers, but, with fluctuating temperatures, that can happen just as the air loses density. But yeah, we took the bags out, inflated, topped it up, and yeah, it still worked as intended. So 475 pounds it's been tested up to, but we're just saying 250 to be safe, because you never want an accident with
something. You want to give yourself a little bit of a wiggle room, or say.
Yeah, better do underplay it than overplay.
Gotcha. So I'm looking here. You guys are in the process of launching your product. So when do you expect that this hammock to kind of hit the market?
Yeah, so we've just started running Facebook ads, and we expect to run the ads for about 2 months until launching in June.
Okay.
Or sorry, late June.
Okay.
Early July.
And then will this be like can people order this from your website, or are you thinking about a Kickstarter, or how are you thinking of running that?
It is going to be a Kickstarter. Yeah. Okay. So right now we're collecting emails as well as reservations. And then the Kickstarter will launch late June, early July. And then we expect the hammocks to be at people's door, early August.
Oh, okay. So pretty quick turnaround and stuff. We've had a few friends. I'd mentioned the Yobo cricket stand. and our friends Cal and Kristen who own Yovo, they've done a few of the Kickstarter campaigns, and I think they're at a point, luckily, because they make a pretty good product. They're kind of beyond the Kickstarter stage of their business, but it seems like a great way to kind of get your product out into the world and showing things up. Now, with showing people an inflatable hammock, it can be very, I guess, maybe intimidating for a lot of people. Seeing like, intimidating necessarily a pad. And I know a lot of people have maybe had some negative experience with a pad, but it seems like this might be something that a lot of people are just going to have to see to kind of to believe, per se.
For sure. Yeah. Something we get quite a lot so far has been, it's just going to pop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is an extremely valid, critique. And I would just say it's similar to a sleeping pad where, you're going to have to care for it. But if you care for it right, it will be a great piece of gear.
Yeah. So, what are kind of the weights that you're looking at as far as the product weight?
The total weight. So we're going to have two options available. We're going to have a 5-foot wide hammock and then also a 6-foot wide hammock available. And so for the 5-foot hammock, you're looking at 2.5 pounds packed weight.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 6-foot, you're looking at 3 pounds.
Okay. And this includes the suspension and
it does not. So you're going to have 0.5 pounds added to that. And that includes pump sack, the packing sack, straps, inflating bag, and carabiners.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to be too much more than, I guess, a lot of your like, say, for example, a Haven or something along those lines. So
yeah,
good deal. What's kind of the pack down size if I'm taking this backpacking, other than weight, what's kind of the dimensions it's looking like going to take up in my pack?
Yeah, so the height is going to be around 10 inches.
Mm-hmm.
And then when rolled up, it's going to be around 5 inches.
Okay, so that's not bad at all.
We keep saying, a little bit bigger than an Nalgene bottle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even if I wasn't taking it on a backpacking trip, that size is very doable for, just say, let's a day hike or something that you can just throw in your pack, or definitely something to throw in a bag for a car camping trip, or in our case is an RV trip for a lot of the places that we go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you guys are doing the 11-foot variant. So what I would necessarily call a legitimate camping hammock.
Yeah. When we were on our trip in Corsica, we had 9-foot hammocks.
Mm-hmm.
And as we all know, the shorter the hammock, the even less comfortable it can be with the back tension. So yeah.
Not to mention freezing your rear end off.
Very true.
So one of the things that we do here is kind of go in and talk about maybe some random questions that we have for you. And you seem like you're pretty well traveled and going places. So what has been some of the favorite places that you have gone and camped or visited?
Yeah. So the first would be, we have a national park on the island. It's called Strathcona.
Mm-hmm.
And that would definitely be my top camping experience. So we have a lot of mountains. There's a lot of mountains on the island, and you're pushing about 2,000 meters once you're up in the alpine terrain in the park.
Mm-hmm.
So you get lots of beautiful alpine lakes with trees surrounding it, which are just perfect spots for camping. And, you can obviously fish for trout in them. And yeah, it's just an amazing place to camp.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like that. The pictures that I've seen of just British Columbia in general are just mind blowing. Another one of my bucket list items is to go to Banff, the Banff area, and see those Canadian Rockies. And I would love to, kind of go see some of our friends on the east coast of Canada, in Newfoundland and up in that area as well. So, but okay, all right. So what are some other places outside of Canada? You said you've been to the Mediterranean, and where else have you
Yeah.
ventured out to?
So yeah, Corsica in the Mediterranean. That's pretty much it when you're talking about Europe. And then just camping in New Jersey is pretty much it. So
Okay.
BC, New Jersey, and then that one outlier of Corsica.
Well, we hope everything goes out well, and maybe we can drag you out to Denmark next year for HinCon Europe over there.
That would be fantastic. Yeah.
It's a great festival. It really, really, really is. So what's your favorite season of the year to camp?
Summer.
Summer.
For
Oh,
sure.
so you're the very first person that we've said not fall. So
Really? Yeah,
but I guess like the temperature difference, like for you, you get, well, it never gets cold here in Florida. So our definition of fall is maybe quite different than you guys's. So
right. Yeah,
so
so BC winters, unless you have a really good winter camping setup, is probably not going to be the most fun time. So
gotcha.
summers really are the peak season over here for all things outdoors.
Gotcha. So you mentioned that you do a lot of trout fishing and things like that.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That's to be fair, that's pretty much the only fish available in our waterways unless you're in the ocean.
Okay.
Yeah. So
so I do you like fly fish or cast line or
cast line, and then power bait or worms. Those
gotcha.
work on trout every time.
Okay.
So yeah.
Gotcha. So when you're out, let's say you're on a camping trip and you're fishing, and maybe let's say the fish isn't exactly biting or whatever. Kind of what's your go-to camp meal for dinner?
I'm sure you've heard this answer a lot, but I would just say ramen noodles.
Ramen noodles, okay,
Yep.
all right. Now, do you get fancy with the ramen noodles, or are you just like throwing stuff in?
We do not. We go with the cheapest pack of ramen noodles you can find in your local store, and that's all we need.
Oh,
And
okay.
usually you're quite tired after hiking up into the mountains, and all that salt is just it's like a 10 out of 10 concourse meal.
It's definitely like ramen noodles or like a North Sides or something like that. It's definitely something that I wouldn't just consciously choose to eat at my house, but like
Right.
like you said, when you're camping, Spam tastes delicious.
Yeah. No, that cheap food that you would never touch at home.
You would never touch.
It really is the best. And I think there's something about being outdoors that just makes every meal taste that much better.
Isn't that funny how that works? Like just how just being outside makes just things seem very different than our normal everyday go. Like the food tastes different, animals sound different. You can really taste or like get the smells that are just more heightened. But yeah. But I can imagine being out where you guys as well. It's probably a lot of like dark sky area, so the stars out your way are probably just incredibly immaculate.
Well, yeah, with the remoteness and there's no light pollution to be found, it's the perfect way to go to bed. And especially, with the hammock looking up, can't get any better.
Oh, absolutely. We were camping in Ridgeway, Colorado, and only a few years ago, and I'm 40 years old now, and it was the first time that I had ever physically seen the Milky Way. It was just I was going to the bathroom at like 9 o'clock that night or whatever, and I was just walking, and looked up, and I was like, oh my gosh. it's just absolutely incredible up there.
Yeah.
You don't get too much. It's hard pressed to find skies that clear on the majority of the East Coast. Well, East Coast of the United States, because, like you said, there is so much light pollution that you get.
Yeah, you can't really compare it. A New Jersey sky, BC sky, totally different. That's for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, outside of like your hammock and stuff, what's your favorite piece of camping gear made by somebody else?
Um, I would say just, your little MSR stove. That's probably my favorite piece of camping gear. Yeah.
So, are you a coffee, tea, the hot chocolate
Hot
kind of guy?
chocolate
Hot chocolate? Okay, all
for
right.
sure. Um, it's quite cold waking up here in the
Mhm.
morning, so you really need a warm beverage to kick you into gear and get you moving.
I mean, I need that every morning here in Florida. It has nothing to do with the call. And people come into my classroom and say, like, "Oh, well, like, well, why does your room smell like coffee?" It's like, well, for one, it's better than butt, and two, if you want kids to live, I have to have coffee in the morning or at lunch or maybe even a cup in the afternoon. So.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Oh, so have you done? Being in Canada, we just assume with like the cold camping. What's have you done any winter camping, and what's the lowest temperatures that you've camped out in?
So the weird thing here is we actually don't really get crazy cold winters. And it's actually an oddity if we actually get snow. It's
Really?
yeah, it's just something about the air patterns coming off the ocean. And unless you are in the interior mountains on the island,
Hmm.
you're not going to get snow. And so yeah, so in terms of temperatures, the lowest I've camped here is -2, which I
Ooh,
think is around 28 or so Fahrenheit.
yeah. Okay. Okay. So -2 Celsius. Okay, gotcha.
You're just below freezing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was that a positive experience or a quite chilly
It
experience?
was because this time we were prepared in terms of gear. Yeah.
I'll say 28
Dedicated
degrees.
sleeping bags instead of, a towel as a blanket. So it
It
worked
just
out.
harkens back to when we were in Denmark last year. We saw some people that had come to the hammock camping area that did not know what they were doing. That they probably just grabbed a hammock from like the nearest store and just like brought it out. And they were gonna do this thing, and it got down to probably like 5 degrees Celsius or maybe even lower that night. And I really don't even think they had any sort of insulation, like at all. Maybe a sleeping bag or something along those lines. And they, you know, I heard them. It was a husband and a wife, a man and a woman, and I had no idea what they were saying at like 6 o'clock in the morning, but I knew exactly what they were saying at 6 o'clock in the morning because I could just hear the frustration. It's like, oh man, I hope they give it a try again. But it's good that like you took your experience that you had, freezing your butt off, and you took that as a learning experience, and you've developed not only your product, but you found like, hey, there are ways to do this better.
Yeah. Um, yeah. And I think it was lucky that we had hammocked before
Hmm.
because I do think that, well, with any like, camping in a tent or hammock, that first experience kind of is a trendsetter in terms of if you're going to do it again. So, yeah, if we hadn't hammocked before and known how comfortable it is, we probably wouldn't have hammocked again after that night.
Now, how is the hammock community up where you are? Is hammock camping a popular kind of outlet, or is it more? Is it still mainly predominantly tents?
I would say it's definitely predominantly tents, just because we do get a lot of rain here. It is a rainforest.
Mm-hmm.
So, unless you have your hammock with the tarp over top, which, I haven't seen a lot of people using, you're going to
Okay.
find people in tents here for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I've definitely ridden out some crazy storms in a hammock under a tarp. So, okay. Gotcha.
yeah, but there are a lot of logging roads, lots of forestry going on the island. So
Mm-hmm.
you have logging roads, and there's a lot of guys that will go, on their motorbikes or 4x4s, and they'll be hammock camping off the side of the roads.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you said you have your national parks up there. I remember when we were looking at places that you have like provincial parks or provincial recreation areas. Yeah,
Mix of both. Yeah.
Okay. Now, are they easy to get? Let's say get a reservation or camping. I mentioned at the beginning of the episode the state parks here in Florida are atrocious for getting. They book up so fast with travelers and tourists and things like that.
Right. So the nice thing about the parks on the island are just that they're so remote. There isn't a
Mhm.
lot of traffic going in and out of them. You do get your select areas where there is, a reservation process, but most of them are really just, you just show up, and if there is a spot, you know, you take it.
Like a first come first serve.
Pretty much. Yeah.
So if now I'm just kind of like pegging you out for a possible a trip to BC in the future, what are
Mhm.
your prices looking at as far as like if I wanted to go to something close to your capital or close to like not in the middle of nowhere where I did need a reservation, what's probably the average price that somebody would be looking at for paying to camp at like a provincial park or something?
On I would honestly say probably around $15-$30 Canadian max.
Okay. Well,
So
that's very reasonable.
super, super affordable. And even the remote camping spots on the island are super well maintained by the Park Service. So yeah,
Okay.
good
Well,
prices and really good options in terms of spots and scenery.
gotcha. So, going back to your product, you're looking to possibly start your Kickstarter at the end of June, correct?
End of June, early July. Yeah.
Okay. So, where can people find you and information on your product?
Yeah, so you can look up Madison River Outdoors on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and there will be links in the description pointing you towards our website, or you can go straight to the website, and it is madisonriver.ca. And yeah, you can see the hammock, and if you so please, sign up on our email list to be notified.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
it's been great chatting with you, and I really look forward to seeing you bringing this product to market. It's a like you said, it's a very unique design, something that I really haven't seen a lot in the market, really at all, and it really looks pretty darn comfortable.
Yeah, you will be one of the first to try it out. I can tell you that.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to it. So, Jackson, I really appreciate you coming on and chatting with me from the whole other side of the continent, and we look forward to hearing from you in the future, and maybe seeing you at some events later on down the road.
That sounds amazing. Yeah. Yeah, just learning about this whole hammock community has been pretty cool. I didn't know that there was so many like-minded people. So it's
Well,
been
we
pretty cool
we,
to
we
see this.
love having new people, and welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty, hangers. This is going to wrap it up for this week's episode of the Hammock Hangers podcast. Make sure that you check out Madison River Outdoors and check out the cool things that Jackson is doing over there. And if you've liked what you've heard, please give us a like and subscribe on wherever you get your podcast. And if you've really enjoyed, we really appreciate a positive review. It really helps suffice the algorithm to help really make the Hammock Hangers podcast broadcast to more individuals, and so we can continue to build this wonderful community that you all are a part of. And like I said, there's plenty of hanging options coming down the pipe this month and opening up into summer, where people are getting out and hanging all over the place. And we really love hearing from you all about those experiences. So until next time, everybody, happy hanging, y'all.
As we gently sway out of another hammock-filled episode, we want to thank you, our wonderful listeners, for hanging out with us on the Hammock Hangers podcast. We hope that you have found relaxation, inspiration, and a renewed sense of connection to nature through our discussions. Remember to keep that hammock spirit alive in your daily life, whether it's by taking a few moments to unwind in your own backyard oasis or by planning your next hammock adventure in the great outdoors. Embracing the tranquility, embracing the simplicity, and never forget the joy that comes from simply hanging around. Before we part ways, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date with all things hammock related. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for the Hammock Hangers Podcast. Your support means the world to us, and we can't wait to hang with you again on our next episode. Until then, stay relaxed, stay adventurous, and keep on hanging those hammocks high. From all of us here at the Hammock Hangers Podcast, we wish you peaceful hangs and endless relaxation. Thank you for tuning in. Happy hanging, everyone.